Call the roll.
Alderman Boyd,
Present.
Alderman Ornowitz,
Present.
Alderwoman Hubbard,
Present.
Alderwoman Howard,
She's excused.
Alderman Muhammad, Alderwoman Boyd.
Gonna bring, they had to make.
She's running late, and John's across the hall still.
Okay. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
Here.
Alderman Vaccaro.
Present.
5 present.
Okay, let's start with the approval of the minutes from the, let's see here, October 1st.
I move for approval of minutes dated October the 1st, 2019.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Ornowitz,
Aye.
Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderwoman Howard, Alderman Muhammad, Alderwoman Boyd, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
Aye.
Chairman Vaccaro.
Aye.
I don't think, 1, 2, 3. We do not have enough to approve the minutes at this moment.
1, 2, 3, 4. Who stepped out?
Mika.
Oh, Tamika
She'll be
stepped
right
out.
back.
She'll be right back.
Okay.
So we'll hold off and we're going to go ahead and move on. So what I think I'm going to do, because I think you're more familiar, I think I'm going to let Jeffrey, who's the vice chairman, chair this, because I think you're more familiar with the two groups, I hope.
I can do that.
Because I know they're
Only with one.
somewhat with Pam, so I'm going to let you do that. I'm going to more, because I'm not familiar with them.
Okay, up on the agenda is item number 1, a presentation from Innovative Concepts and the I Think organization. Mr. Carter, who's going to speak on behalf of your organization? Okay, so we're going to have Mr. Bruce Carter come up, and you can tell us your name again and who you're with, and make a presentation. Do you have any audio visual?
I'm going to actually give you all a copy for you. All right, is there a certain form here?
So go ahead and state your name and the organization you're with, and
My name is Bruce Carter, and I am the director of the I Think Solutions. We'll call it a tour for now, but we operate in 2 501c3s. That's the Right Way Foundation and Restoring Families Across America. Okay. I Think Solutions is a public safety and quality of life, as we say, a solution. We don't use the word programs and services. So we are in St. Louis today. We traveled through St. Louis about 3 weeks ago on what's the Solutions Tour, which is a 40-day, 40-night tour that started in Dallas on September the 7th. And we have 13 cities, and St. Louis being one. There were 2 things that we have identified that we can resolve, one being homelessness and another one being senseless violence. Currently, we all know the state of St. Louis as it relates in the per capita as it relates to murders and senseless violence. That's why we're here. What we'd like to do is take a holistic approach to address the issue. That means we address some of the systemic issues, poverty, lack of transferable skills, things that have existed for a while, but we can turn around. If you will go into the presentation, past where it says, I think the second time, I'm going to run you through the presentation, ask a few questions, then we'll talk about implementation. The other way.
Oh,
You're going to see it one more time, I think. And that's the presentation. There you go. All right. The second page, it talks about who we are. After that, and then I ask questions. We talk about the problems we're solving. And then if I'm off, let me know. High crime, high criminal activity, criminal-minded bullying, high poverty rates, lack of transferable skills, and lack of opportunities. So in order to address them, and as I talk about a holistic approach, we look at where we are as crime, but then we look at what can we do to address those who are most apt to be killed or commit the crime, and how do we transfer where they are so they are a productive citizen in the city that we live in? And then how do we strengthen the people in the city so they're confident that those that, whether you call it retaliation or use the form of intimidation, how do we address those issues, which we've had some situations to arise in St. Louis under that? If you go to the next page, our goal, okay, go back to where you see, I think, just scroll through.
Okay, so I have a problem. So I have Jeffrey doing this.
Got it?
Okay, I'm there now. Okay, thank you.
All right, got it, all right. So next page,
Okay, thank you.
you already go to the next page.
He did. Next page. Next page. Okay, I'm with it now.
All right. So our goal is to reduce, deter, and prevent crime. And the way we do that, we identify and report criminal activity immediately. We will develop 6,872 income opportunities. What we have found since we've been on the tour gathering data, based on poverty and some of how people respond to situations when they have a benefit is a little different. Youth entrepreneurship is how we plan on preventing it. That means some of the children that will become part of our criminal system, if we can reach them on the front end, then they can be a part of our solution. A connective workforce development. We need a workforce that is relative to the individuals that live in the city of St. Louis, especially in some of the wards that are experiencing high poverty and economic development opportunities for the individuals and for the city. The next page talks about creating a positive peer relationships throughout the city. We work specifically in single-parent households. Once again, individuals who are most apt to commit a crime or be a victim of the crime. Barbers and hairstylists, we have found to be very important in the work. These two gentlemen here, I met while we were in St. Louis. They are barbershop owners and small business owners. And we focus on grades 4 through 12 as a part of our solution long-term, and young adults 18 to 24. When we look at stats nationally, those have been a high percentage of the individuals that have committed the crimes. Some of our competitive landscapes that we have seen are politics, outdated mindsets, and insulated mindsets. Our solution is put the people first, practical and mission-driven, and make St. Louis one of America's safest cities. Now, if you go back to the beginning, we can talk about concept, missions.
you want us to actually turn to a particular page?
Just, you can go to the front where it says executive summary, page 2.
Page 2, okay.
All right. So the things that I found that we have to address in any urban core, St. Louis is no different. We have to address mindset, and we have to address poverty on the front end, because we can arrest people, but there's going to be a second row that will commit the same activities because of the conditions that they live in. So what we will do in St. Louis, I think, is the umbrella, but we will institute several other of our solutions. One is PTI, which is a pathway to independence. That means we will actively go out and locate some of the individuals that now sell dope in your community. They hang around your stores. On our tour, we met some of them. We talked to them. We engaged them. And we asked serious questions. I said, look, man, the city right now is working to lock you up. What if I could give you an opportunity to become a business owner, especially with the real estate that's in your community? That talks about the workforce development. We can teach these young adults plumbing, framing, electrician, all the things it takes to remodel these homes. That provides an economic opportunity for the city because it puts properties back into your tax base. More importantly, it's with a condition. They have to be a part of the solution, not a part of the crime. We take them, we train them, we get them certified. We're able to address some of your affordable housing issues because now we can take those same properties via our agreement and we can put rent caps on them for a certain period of time. And as long as these individuals are restrained from being involved in negative outcomes in the community, we deed them the properties. So I would like to talk about creating millionaires with some of these young guys. You take them, you form an LLC, you put them in groups of 4, they're in the street together anyway. Now they become accountable to one another because they don't want to lose the opportunity that they have. That's what we do when we hit the city. So there's already people in your city that fit the model. When we went out with some of your neighborhood specialists, we engage them. They're selling drugs. Hey, man, I'm not here to arrest you, but I do want to give you an opportunity. As far as the youth, if we do not understand where our kids are, then we're failing in the process. You can spend $50 million. If you're not addressing that, you're going to be back here in 5 years. So what we propose is to start in the 4th grade. We have support, so we don't just come. The tour that we're talking about, my partner, James Wright, is an NBA sports agent. We've invested about $500,000 in this process since May. And his son is a professional basketball player. He's one of our larger contributors. But we have men who realize that we can have an impact if we really put the time and the money and the knowledge that we have. So we'd go into the school districts, and we're talking specifically of St. Louis. We'd engage the children. How I know it works, I received the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award for President Obama for having mentored over 500,000 kids across the country. That means the kids I started in the 5th grade, they now have mentoring organizations across the country. And we do that through teaching them entrepreneurship. So these children that we're talking about, we create the relationship with them. We show them how to become young business owners. They can earn $500 a month. We establish an IDA account. That's an individual development account that allows them to get corporate matches. They can use that money for education, house, and business. That's it. Now a child has something to wake up for and to chase long term. Those are some of the things that we are missing. We understand that a lot of our children in this community live in single-parent housing. That's a reality. So we can talk about having a village to raise them, or we can create the village. Our goal is to create the village. So we have pathways to independence that we're going to put inside. Then we have PRO, which is providing we call it real opportunities. That's the connective workforce. And as you start to work through those, we use the foundational skills that come from George Washington University that says you must have these skills before you are qualified to go get on a job. And then the last thing that we are looking at putting inside, we didn't identify the problem when we came. I think we were here 2 nights, is the homelessness. We work in the homeless where I don't believe if you're not putting a person in a home, then they're still subject to be homeless again. The shelters is not the solution. Our solution is to work within families, and it's called family. And it allows us to rehome you immediately, but we allow you to be a part of your success. I guess I can take questions because I can kind of talk. This is all of our solutions that we're talking about implementing in one. But we would like to have a true stake in St. Louis. We will be holding what's called a Solution Summit here in St. Louis. I'm meeting with your convention bureau. It's November the 13th through the 16th. And we have city officials from across America that will be coming. We have invited presidential and congressional candidates to see what we're doing, and we're prepared to make substantial investments in the real estate within the city.
Okay. Let's go ahead and take questions from the committee. We'll start with Alderman Arnowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Carter, So you originally started this in Dallas? Is that what I heard you say?
The tour started in
Oh, the
Dallas.
tour started.
40-day, 40-night tour started in Dallas.
Okay. And believe me, I do agree with you because we have a lot of single mothers out there, and the kids at them ages, 3rd, 4th grade on up, you know, unfortunately, the mothers aren't home all the time. They're trying to work, make a living, keep a roof over their head. And they have no idea where their kids are at that age a lot of times. And I mean, it's not a fault of theirs, believe me. So I do like that idea that we have to have some direction starting with the younger kids and get them on the right path. I do like that you step up and ask people on the corner selling drugs, this, that, and everything else, because I always thought, man, my life's worth more than selling drugs, because I remember when I worked in the city marshal's office, I talked to a young black gentleman. He was only 17. And we were talking one day, and he actually told me, I make my living selling drugs. He goes, all I want to do is buy my mother a house, and if I make it to 21, I'm happy.
Wow.
I go, that's a terrible outlook, you know, so it's no secret St. Louis has a lot of problems. Poverty being the number one thing. Poverty causes crime. There's no doubt about it. But anything that we can figure out, get the right mentors out there to keep these kids from killing each other. I mean, just shooting wildly and innocent people getting killed. I mean, we got to change that mindset somewhere. So
I agree.
I appreciate your summary so far.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Alderwoman Hubbard.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Bruce Carter.
Bruce Carter. Okay, I think I missed like the very beginning of your presentation. And are you currently operating somewhere in another city, or is this a new program, or?
We have done different versions, and now we've put them together. So there was a link that I sent that showed you various news coverage of some of the work we've done.
Okay.
Especially with the young boys, ages 10 to 18.
Okay, and what area did you do that in, and what city?
I've done it across the country, but this was in May. Dallas experienced an uptick in crime. We call it an uptick in crime, a little more normal. So I work with the National Black Police Association across the country.
Okay.
So we came together and put together, in conjunction with the church, what we called a summer safe haven. And from there, we took the young boys from the streets, and we mentored them the entire summer. We had some that left gangs, but we started the process of putting them and treating them as business owners. We work with Toyota, a professor from the University of Texas, and the United Steelworkers to teach them robotics, scientists, and of course, entrepreneurship.
Okay, great. And so on average in these particular cities that you did work in, walk us through kind of like your structure, like what was like your average operating budget, or like how many kids did you serve in each city or whatever?
So as I said, me personally, over the last 12 years, I've had contact from university to street corners to juvenile centers with over 500,000 kids as of 2017. I don't know, I was letting them know I received the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award from President Obama for the work. Now I mentor the children that I mentored in their organizations across the country.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, and so briefly, Mr. Vice Chairman, are we hearing testimony from organizations? Is this for Prop P money, or are they just introducing themselves to the city, or what?
I'm taking the lead of the actual chairman of the committee, and different organizations have been invited to make a presentation about their work that could potentially benefit the quality of life of citizens in the St. Louis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
great.
some presentations may be directed toward Prop S. Some presentation may be directed toward the $5 million we just approved. I don't want to call it cure violence because the money wasn't allocated just for cure violence, but the $5 million we just passed towards some program to deal with violence prevention.
Oh, okay. See, no, now you confused me. So that money was directed toward cure violence, right? Don't they have a contract?
No, the money that the board bill that just passed on Friday was opened up to programs like Cure Violence. It's not specific to Cure Violence. That is my understanding.
Oh, okay. I thought we had a contract with Cure
No,
Violence.
there is. It is a little confusing.
Oh,
So it's
yeah,
currently
it
a
is.
contract
It is.
And,
Okay.
with Cure Violence to
Okay.
do work in JBL.
Okay.
And so that's already in place. It hasn't
Okay.
been implemented yet,
Okay.
but this $5 million plus, it's
The-
for a different organization.
And I thought that there was an additional 2 million that was given through E&A on top of the Cure Violence. So there was, in fact, I'm sure there was 2 million given out, or given, that E&A approved for programs other than Cure Violence.
Okay, and I'm sorry, sir, that we had to make you privy to our educational process. So we don't know what's going on with. But I definitely want to commend you for your efforts in doing this type of work. I've been very up close and personal with this type of work. My background is in criminology, criminal justice. I worked at DYS, DFS, also worked for an organization called APSI, who actually did this work of going into some of our most, it was called APSI, Alliance of Parents and Children for Educational Empowerment. And I bring that up because we were definitely doing some of this work. There was a contract with St. Louis Public Schools, and the funding fell out of it. And so that's often a problem in our community in this area. You can be doing excellent work, and we have a lot of duplication of a lot of the same programs. Some are more beneficial to the community than others, but sometimes when you're new to St. Louis or you're new starting up, if you don't have this grandiose budget that comes with you, if you just depend on the meat and the bones of what we can trickle down to you or what the state can trickle down to you, it sometimes poses an unnecessary hardship to an organization.
Yeah, so part of what we've done is built a sustainability, meaning we will create revenue within the work we do. Because exactly what you said, you never want to be dependent upon a grant. So you'll know, I've never had a grant. I've never had funds from the city or the state. It was about taking my kids, showing them how to earn money. And through that process, it's
And
been
can you
very...
explain you mentioned affordable housing. Can you explain that component to your program as
Sure.
well?
It's called My Backyard for us. But in St. Louis, I really had a great tour. And one of the reasons I came back, I met several aldermen, persons, because it was a woman and male, and they spent some real time with us. And then I met Miss Joanne and her team, I think at Neighborhood Services. I think they're like the ward coordinators that go out and work with the people, the community. And in that, we did that for 2 days. We were able to see the opportunities through the real estate. And so if I could take, I'm just gonna say some names, if I can take John and Lil Ronnie and pull them off of the corner and then show them how they can be empowered. And if we're able to do that with 10, 20 units, and we can make the rents on that because it's part of what we're doing, 500, 600 for that single mother who's going to work, then that's how we control rents, because we're gonna bring in the money to rehab them through our partners. And through that relationship, we now have properties that are back on the tax roll that we can subsidize based on the relationship of
And
what
you've
the property's
actually
doing.
used that model before in other cities
Yes,
regarding homes?
I have
Okay,
also.
I would
but-
definitely like to see that if you could forward the committee, just a snapshot or
Okay.
some of the results that
Yeah.
you've done in what particular state
And
or
my
area.
partner, outside being an NBA agent, he was a custom home builder for 15 years.
Oh, okay.
So, but I will. We have veteran housing now in Dallas. That's in, and we have districts, not wards, but in our district, we have the highest murder rate where my office is. But we have veteran housing all over the district, and we've been doing that for 20 years.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Alderman Muhammad.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there a cost associated with this? I know at the beginning of the pamphlet you gave us, it lists that there is financial assistance, but it's not listed within the exact content of this booklet.
Yes.
So I want to know what was that, and if it and what does that look like?
Okay.
It says financial need, but it's not listed
Okay.
within the contents of the booklet.
There is a cost. Of course, you know there's a cost. to the level that we would do from a holistic. If we do what we're talking about, it's about an $8 million budget. And that budget would put about $4 million back into the pocket of local residents within your city, through their relationship, what they will be doing as it relates to the senseless violence and other components. Part of that money could be in real estate. That means if you all have real estate, we're looking to bring in a corporate training center, and we are willing to take market rates or based on your tax rate that you currently have. I know you have a dollar system and you could buy them outright for 500, but we're willing to look at several solutions to get to that number.
And in the cities that are currently operating with this particular program or initiative, have they all paid $8 million?
Well, every budget's different. So if you look at, I sent a link for you all. If you look at what I have put to Dallas, it's $41 million. So it's based on size, it's based on need. This would focus on 5 of your wards. But as I said, inside of your wards, one of the things that we have to address, and if we're not, we're throwing money away. We have to be able to get residents bought into the solution. So it cannot be when there's a shooting, oh, help us, help us. It doesn't work that way. People need to be involved on the front end so they can reduce the activity. So as I said, part of that money goes right back into the people in your community, about 46% to be exact about it. So we are working with retired police officers in St. Louis that will be a part of this. But what I found is, and I spent on the tour, I was in Cincinnati in the hospital with a mother whose son got shot 9 times. While I was there, another family came and had been shot 7 times. And of course, they're African American. They want everybody to get engaged now, but they were part of the group that wouldn't get engaged on the front end. So we have to break that cycle, because anything short of that, I'm sorry, it doesn't work. So when you can meet some of the poverty and some of the hardships on the front end, people become loyal to the process. And so, but I can definitely break it down, and I can even, if you don't mind, I can give you a line on the budget.
Yes, thank you. Because you said roughly 46% will go back into the pockets of the
You'll see
community.
this right there. So it goes right back to your residents. The other part is our project managers that we bring in, they are doctoral carriers of project management. So if we built a relationship with St. Louis, the young lady we bring in as a professor at the University of Texas, received her doctoral from Purdue, machinist by trade, would come in and would oversee a team that we call the integrity team. So she'd come here. So those resources would come because they live somewhere in your city. And then we'd send assistant project managers and technicians. So the money would flow back into your city also in order to get to where we need to be successful.
Now, the contents of this booklet here is, I'm assuming it's tailored for St. Louis because it has St. Louis all throughout the contents of it.
Yes,
So,
it's 2 things.
and you said 5 wards earlier. Who chooses these 5 wards, or in Dallas you call them districts, but who would choose these 5 wards here in the city of St. Louis?
That would be open to committee. I think based on the services that we would like to provide, then if I am part of the choices, I would say give me the wards that have suffered the worst for the longest. That way we can see if what we're doing. Me, I'm a 2-time All-American football player. I like to win. My partner is a Hall of Fame basketball player in college. So we're used to going in, making things happen. I believe so much in what we do. Take me, and you're welcome to ride with me. Let's get out here, get in the streets, and I'll show you how people receive opportunity if they can believe in what you're telling them. And so whether that's Ward 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 28, 22, 27, 3, 4, 5, give me the place where we've struggled in addressing it because we just haven't walked in with the right thing.
And in Dallas, does the city of Dallas pay for this program?
We started in May, which we funded it, to get the data. We go back to Dallas, and we have met with 5 councils on what we will do. And as I said, I was telling someone, Dallas probably has 100 and 60 murders, right? And that's high for Dallas. So the purpose of us going on the tour was to go to these 13 cities and see which cities had the highest need. Of course, on homelessness, it was LA and San Francisco. It's really easy. When we went to Philadelphia and Cincinnati and Baltimore, we do the same thing. We met with mayors and so forth. They'll be coming to your city for the summit. And the way it was going to happen before I came to St. Louis is at the summit, we would have took the data and we would have put out invitations to go to your city. But it kind of just got sped up, kind of based on the relationships and when we came to St. Louis.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Hello, thank you for coming. I just had a couple of questions. It sounds like you went around with the Citizen Service Bureau. Do you know what neighborhoods you specifically went to?
I met this gentleman in 2, I believe. What's your ward? 27,
Oh, okay.
5, all the adjoining, from North St. Louis, whatever those wards that touch them, because I believe if you work in this ward and you start to push, this is going to go to another ward. So how do we collectively take a circle effect or triangle or however you want to call it and work within that so it can go have some penetration and depth?
Okay, okay. I would be interested to see which neighborhoods and stuff you went to, which we can ask them.
That's your ward, 26?
I'm 26, 27th is not here, but the 5th ward is the Alderwoman Tamika Hubbard, who you spoke with earlier.
Okay.
And what I did like what you said about creating a village instead of just talking about a
Yeah,
village.
listen,
I like that.
Got a question for you. In your ward,
Yes.
because I had a real good conversation. In your ward, what do you see as the biggest issue in your ward?
Well, crime is going to be one of the biggest issues in all of our wards.
Okay.
We just had a prominent figure in our ward get carjacked and pistol whipped and robbed just last night. So that's the biggest issue in all of our wards.
Okay. I'll say this, and I'm here because I have a meeting with your convention bureau, I think Miss Kitty or something like that today,
Right.
so we can finalize the summit. I love when I can go into your community and tell you before we get there how people will respond. So I'm always open to that, so we can spend time and identify. And I've just found that when you engage people and you give them an opportunity, a lot of them will take it. And if the right ones take it, then you're going to have some great results really fast.
I do like the model, and I'll be looking forward to the summit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Alderman Vaccaro.
I don't have a lot of questions. It sounds a little bit like the Cure Violence program that was presented, a little bit different concepts. I will say I'm glad that you guys came so that when you do the summit, a lot of times we're like the last ones to hear things, and I do appreciate being on top of the list. And I would have to say that, and that's why I have Jeffrey, chairing meetings, because in my ward, we really don't have much of anything going on, which is good.
Not
Maybe
yet.
a few car break-ins, but that's about it.
I have a question
Want
for
to keep
you.
it that way.
You said that this is similar to Cure Violence.
Yeah.
Can you give me several similarities?
Well, I mean, Cure Violence works with the people in the neighborhood that commit crime, that actually hires them to work within the community to try to stop crime. It's similar in that way. I mean, where they, now yours is a little bit different. I like the idea with the homelessness where they actually work toward building homes and getting people off the street. I like that. But Cure Violence there's a lot of similarities, although I can only go by what the people that have come in and talked to us on. So, but I mean, I think it sounds like a great program. And again, I'm probably interested in that summit, and hopefully you get to talk to the mayor's office and, at least we're ahead of the curve for a change instead of hearing things after, So I really don't have a whole lot of questions.
Alderman Boyd, we're going through the committee on questions about the I Think program. You have any questions or comments at this time?
No, I had, they had did a presentation to me. Thank you all for your patience. I'm sorry. They had did a presentation to me, and this is the short version. And so the part that I was excited about was the entrepreneurship and getting people involved, because I think what happens in our communities, everybody has the same line. People need a job. And so a lot of our people can't do a 9-to-5 job. That's not where they are. Our people have talents, and we need to utilize the talents that they have to make them creative within our community, and that's what helps build communities. And so that's why I like the program, and I just wanted the Public Safety Committee to hear it. And everybody doesn't have to agree with it, but it was just respectful to hear, because you have a lot of people coming to the table, and I just wanted them to be heard also, to be equally heard.
Is that it, Alderman?
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Carter, you brought a couple of guests here, people that you met in the neighborhood. If they wanted to speak, I would want to give them an opportunity to speak.
Perfect, it's their home. Before I take my seat, I got one question for you all.
But you don't need to take your seat. You
Oh,
can
okay.
continue to stand there.
All right, Eric and Strong, come on.
If they want to speak.
I know he wants to, because he's been talking the whole time,
And
but
so
come on,
we-
stand anyway, Eric.
Give them the sign-in sheet.
I do want to ask y'all this.
Can you give them the sign-in sheet? if
Yes,
you
sir.
please?
Sign it. This is just a question for my own little. How do y'all end up with the same name out of 4 people? Hubbard. I thought I was making a mistake in Boyd.
That's my sister-in-law.
Oh, okay. I'm always trying to figure it out.
And he's no kin.
But I claim as my auntie anyway.
Right.
So, I'm listening to you
Have you signed in, sir?
guys, and
And so you have to state your name and your affiliation, if you're with a company, if you're just a resident of the neighborhood.
my
just
name is Mr. Strong, Gerard Strong.
Gerard Strong. Okay, thank you, Mr. Strong.
I've been living in St. Louis all of my life. I'm 54, except for 3 years when I was in the military. We see the same thing over and over. We're not really addressing the issue. What Bruce is talking about is those guys that are standing in the front of the store in my neighborhood. They have some skills. They can do carpentry, can work on houses. Some of them work from time to time. Some of them work from time to time. But I really think, with no disrespect, I don't think you guys fully understand where this problem is. People don't come to my barber shop at times because it's at 8102 North Broadway. Right down the street from me is a liquor store. You can find 10, 15, 20 people all selling dope. That's part of our problem. There's nothing else in Baden for my kids to do. 15% of the money that I spent renovating my building went to people in my neighborhood, paying them just so they could eat, paying them just so they could get money to go to their jobs. the kids 5, 6, 7 years old walking the street till 7 o'clock at night, and that's from 7 o'clock that morning, asking me, do I have any work? This is a 6-year-old asking me, do I have any work? They want something to do. The buffer is taking what you have in your resources and applying them in the most effective manner. Cutting through the red tape, taking this person and offering him an opportunity to help him as Habitat for Humanity might do. Help you take this house that we can sell for $500, having you fix this, you earn credentials, we create more tax base for the city, and now this person has something that basically credentials to work with later. It's only part of the problem, though. If we can't get rid of the people that's standing in front of the liquor store, or get rid of the liquor store, I'm gonna keep putting my shop out there, and people are gonna still not come because of where I am. But I talk to the kids. I talk to the adults. I understand that they don't see anything in our school system. They don't see any help coming from social programs. There's a disconnect. The money that you provide, the funds that you have available, they never see those things to help them grow. There's no community center there. There's a park. We have a bunch of empty schools, but we have more foreign-owned liquor stores and restaurants than you care to believe. So how do they create their income? They can't. It's a useless, it's a purposeless, useless situation all the way around. They don't see a rainbow at the end of this. And after this meeting, they still not gonna see a rainbow. Do you think we're gonna do something right here that develops something that could actually help them? I'm talking about Ward 2 right now. Is there anything that we can do right here to help pull these kids straight from the liquor store and into a future that they can be proud of, where they can make a decent living, or just get some help? We don't have to show them everything. All we have to do a lot of times is just open the door. They'll get it themselves. They want it. We're not providing it. I think that this is part of the solution. There's many parts to this because it's a problem that has grown over decades. There is a solution in what we're talking about, but it takes more than just that. And I hope you know that this is just the beginning. I see, if I was sitting in here, I would see a lot of people, and if I didn't know who you guys were, I would see a lot of people that probably had some help to offer me if I was one of those people standing on the corner. I know that there's a way y'all can put y'all head together and make this happen. You're talking about the crime. You gotta get the people that are committing the crime. Them the ones that are mad. Them the ones that are teed off every time they go home and they don't have nothing. Them the ones that are angry. They not per se angry at anyone. They're angry at their life, what's offered to them. And they not looking for a handout. They just can't get to Chesterfield where the jobs are. They can't get to Fenton where the jobs are. So they have to work for this foreigner up under the table where they don't progress, period. That's not for us, and I think we can do better than that. I think the first step is looking at the alternatives that are presented. If it's a proven program and it has an ounce of success, honestly, it's probably better than what we're doing right now. And I don't mean to be negative, but this is where I come from, and this is where I live. And this is where I see the 5, 4, 6-year-olds walking the street at night. We don't ever have to worry about anybody molesting, taking advantage of these kids because the whole neighborhood knows. Whole neighborhood also knows that they have nothing else to do. I'm hoping you guys can find something for them to do.
Okay. We really appreciate your testimony.
I hope
Thank you.
so, boss, because it's real.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did the other gentleman want to speak? Okay. I have a few questions, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this up. We have another presentation. So I want to confirm, you say there's an I Think conference November the 13th through the 16th, correct?
Yes, sir.
It's going to be here in the city of St. Louis. There was a request for different neighborhoods that you visited when you were here. Do you know the neighborhoods, or you?
His was one, I don't know the,
Okay, you don't know. I know
You mean like-
you did Wells. Did you
I
do
took a
Wells
tour, she can tell me. I went through 27, 2, and then I went through 22, and then, that was with guidance, a tour guide.
Okay.
And then, yeah, I probably can go back through the videos, but I don't know all of them, because we rode as independent.
The reason I ask neighborhoods is because we have wards, but some wards may have 3 or 4 neighborhoods.
Okay,
You may have just went to one particular, like Baton is in Ward 2, Wells Goodford would be 22. You probably went to Walnut Park in 27, east or west or something like that.
He did a whole 27.
The whole 27, okay,
The NSO
right.
took
I
him.
did 22,
okay.
the 8 at the.
You did
so-
the entire ward?
Yes.
Okay, all right, cool.
And then I did, I'm gonna mess her name up.
Jermaine,
Shamikia Johnson,
Kamika?
how you pronounce it? That was in 26, so I did,
Oh, that's my ward then.
yeah. So this is kind of my notes from where we went.
That's your NSO?
Uh-huh.
Okay, okay. All right, so you did the whole, so you covered all the neighborhoods in those particular wards, okay. So if you could just shoot an email about the different wards that you went to, that'll be helpful.
Okay.
So that the whole committee kind of know what wards, and within those wards, what neighborhoods you probably hit. Is there a cost for the summit?
To the city?
Yeah, if Alderman wanted to attend.
No. There's no cost to anyone to attend. I just got confirmation that we will have the president from Washington, from the National Black Police Association. She wants to come in and talk with the communities here in St. Louis. But no, there's no cost. We're working with the Convention Bureau to get a headquarters hotel, some sites where we can hold some of what we're doing. We want to invite certain parts of the community. I believe that when you tell someone you can serve them, you have to let them be a part so they can have a seat at the table in the planning period. So those will probably be off-site from where we do the actual conference, but we'll have time where we bring those in the community that say they want more from their community, they just haven't been given the opportunity.
Okay, and you also presented us with a, almost an $8.3 million budget. Is this for 1 year, 5 years?
Okay, so the budget is an annual budget, and as I said, we have sustainable models within our budget. If you look at the budget, it also provides for cash and real estate, and as I said, we're prepared to, we will remodel all the real estate, us and our partners, that we believe will add value to the city, and we will agree to utilize those properties as part of affordable housing as it relates to the city. We would agree on certain caps and times, but we're willing to do that.
So would the $8.3 million be a combination of city funds and corporate funds, or?
City, corporate, property, yes. That's the cost. So we have to work and feel the cost, but that's what it costs, not necessarily all from the city. And we're definitely talking to some professional athletes. There are some things we're working with a congressman out of Chicago also to maybe put some new market tax credits in place immediately as it relates to senseless violence and homelessness.
Okay. All right, well, we thank you for your presentation.
All righty. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Next up, we have Innovative Concepts. And who's speaking on behalf of Innovative Concepts?
Well,
They are. They're being shy.
Uh-oh, I said it wrong.
I gave it wrong.
Mine says Innovative Concepts, but it's innovative, you could tell, you can correct us when you get up here.
Pam said she gave it to us wrong.
Okay. A couple of familiar faces.
Good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead and tell us who you are and who you're representing, and then we can listen to your presentation.
Kind of short. I'm not really short. She's just making that up. Daphne Moore, Innovative Consulting Group, and
Antoinette Tony Cousins, Innovative Consulting Group.
so we are familiar to the city. I used to work for the city of St. Louis for 13 years, and then city manager for East St. Louis, city of Delwood, and economic development director for the city of Berkeley.
And I am Tony Cousins. Actually, I have over 25 to 30 years in community development, housing, and dealing with youth and alternative education. And currently, I am the CEO for CareSTL Health Foundation.
And we're here, we are residents of the city of St. Louis, and we have been working on a project, I don't want to say project, concept of how do we rebuild the city as a whole. We don't believe in isolation and triangles. We have a citywide problem that needs citywide issues to be addressed. And our goal is to do it in phases, especially depending on where the areas are. We are working with some of the CDCs in the community and working to get private funding as well as public funding to address beautification, after-school programs, and actually putting programming within the school and working with the school board so that we can help our young people grow, deal with mental health issues, as well as having some after-school programming that keeps them off the street.
Basically, what we've done is we've taken all the skill sets that the two of us have, as well as our other team, and we've put it together. We've seen what works. The programs that we have are programs that have actually been implemented, and we saw the impact that the programs were making within the community. The challenges that we see that continue to occur is, as stated before by Alderwoman Hubbard, you have the programs, they have good service, good programs, but the funding oftentimes is taken away from them. And that's really the number one problem that the city of St. Louis is facing. You cannot provide dollars to a community and then just abruptly take the dollars away. When you do, you're getting just what you're seeing, the crime that you see affecting the entire city of St. Louis. The programs that we have that we're presenting, we have seen the impact that they've made. When we initiated the programs years ago, crime was down by 80%. If you check the data and see the things that we offered and what was being presented within the community, within the city's North Corridor, you actually saw a decrease in crime. You saw an increase in economic value within the area, and you actually saw a lot of development and positive things that was occurring within the community.
And one of the things that we want to do, of course, economic development is the end goal, but until we start really getting into the school system, giving our young people something to do, and also looking at other ways to create entrepreneurship and working with the existing organization. You know, we don't want to create another organization and another organization. We need to work with the organizations that are currently there, that are already boots on the ground, that may need additional assistance in helping those corridors. Riverview, West Florissant, of course, Hamilton Heights. We've had projects that have happened. We want to see the next phase, but a lot of people want to see the crime decrease and also give our young people something to do. And our goal is, of course, to do both, but also addressing the pressing issue is the crime issue and the young people issue. What do we do with our young people? How can we help them continue to grow? And how can we deal with some of the mental health issues that no one really is addressing as a whole? And it starts with the school system.
So one of the programs that we've already launched, we've worked with Dr. Adams, where it's actually two that we're going to be implementing hopefully by December. One is where you're actually going inside the school. The goal is to work with the teachers, work with the social service entities, and bring all the resources into the school. Alderwoman Hubbard, Alderman Boyd, Alderman Vaquero, as well as Alderwoman Boyd, you guys had the opportunity to come to AMI Kids and see the resources that we were actually able to provide within that school. This program is actually going into a school to assist what's already there, where we'll be identifying the attendance issues or kids with behavior issues. You'll be working with case managers and licensed clinical social workers. The other program will actually be offering an after-school program where it's from 4 to 10. One of the biggest issues we know is kids have nothing to do between that time, and safety is always an issue. And talking with Dr. Adams, he said, I want the kids to be safe. But at the same time, we want to make sure once you get the kids to that after-school program, that they have transportation home. So the way we've created all of the programs is not innovative consultant implementing the programs per se. As Daphne stated, it's actually the organizations that's already embedded within a community implementing the programs, but we're providing them the detailed training that they need to ensure that they're giving quality service to the population that needs it.
And the other part of this is beautification in the handyman program, where we're actually making sure that we are actually beautifying the neighborhood and creating programs where we have a lot of seniors that they need small things done to their household, single parents, and they don't quite have the funding to fix those things. So one of the things we want to create jobs for our young people and for small contractors to come back within the community and really help to clean up our community, because we know that unfortunately, our forestry department is not large enough to service every area of the city, and we want to make sure that the community has some ownership and start to really create a path where there is opportunities to expand those programs into construction and other entrepreneurship opportunities to rebuild the community as a whole.
So basically, our approach is looking at all areas. Our approach is not only looking at public dollars, but private dollars. Our approach is looking at existing organizations that's there, that's lacking the resources that they need to be able to implement programs that will help impact and change the community. This is not just a north side issue. This is not a midtown issue. This is an entire city issue. We have met with various alder people. We've met with churches and presented this actual proposal to them. And at this point, they're like, I'm not waiting, I want in. What do we do? How do we take this to the next level to get this started?
And we want to create a true partnership. We don't want the city working in a silo. We don't want the organizations working in a silo. So this is our community, and we have to all play a part in it. And we truly believe that if we can just start working together, working with some of the city agencies, the funding is there. It's how do we make better choices with the funding that we have, and any additional funding, how do we develop plans that actually build the community as a whole without displacing people? Because one of the biggest concerns on the north side is, okay, you start revitalizing, you bring NGA in and some of these other things, then what happens to me? So our goal is to make sure that people are not displaced, but they also get the services and the needs, and we're meeting the needs of the community while reducing crime.
And the final piece that we bring because of us doing this for so long, one of the biggest issues we've always found is accountability. Oftentimes, you have organizations that come in and say what they can and will do, but no one ever holds those organizations accountable. You, as elected officials, may vote for it, approve it, but nobody comes back to do follow-up. Nobody is holding each organization accountable, ensuring that what we're saying is being done is being done. And that's the role that Innovative Consulting Group will have. We will be pretty much the watchdog. If we're in the 26th ward and we've trained your housing organization or your CDC and we showed them the programs that need to be implemented, we're going to be there with them. But we'll be providing whomever constant data showing this is the impact is working, or no, this CDC is not fulfilling the need that you've agreed to fund by providing the necessary services to the community. The bottom line for us, we're not looking to make money. I'm gonna just be honest. Well, I'm not. She probably is. But we're not. This came about because both of us have seen and been doing this for years. We know what it takes. We know what the need is. But we find that most organizations and everybody, and not slamming, but just being honest, we always have people from the outside trying to come in and tell us what needs to be done, and we know. We're just not putting it together. We're not putting the necessary pieces together and working with what we have to improve what's needed. The programs that we've pretty much designed will bring about 1,000 jobs throughout the city of St. Louis. Throughout the city of St. Louis. We're not saying certain pockets in the city. One thing that bothers us both, stop labeling the city of St. Louis with terms the rectangle. That's demeaning. Why are we steady focusing on negative things? Oh, you live in a rectangle, so do you think that people can buy a house or will want to buy a house if they're told, oh, that's part of the rectangle, that's a high crime area? You have to focus on wording and labeling, and we have to stop doing that.
Yeah, and the funny thing that I would say is that, one of our goals is that we have been in the community. We've been in some of the toughest areas that most people won't even touch. And, we've been very successful. I've worked with Alderman Boyd for a long time, and, they told us Arlington Grove would never happen. And I think that for us, accountability and getting things done are our top priorities, and we really care about the community. I live in an area that normally you don't see a lot of crime. We've had so much crime that when you can solve a problem, the goal is to solve that problem. And not saying that we can stop every crime, but I do think that we have enough minds, not only in this room, but in our community, that we can rebuild our community and build strong families and strong children. Because I don't want to see another child tell me that, Miss Moore, the streets are dying. Not talking, they dying. So when a young person doesn't have hope, that's our future. And if they don't have hope, that means that they're not going to stay here. And we want to rebuild our population, not have people calling me from out of town saying, you all are killing babies. That's what the city of St. Louis is known for. We have to change those narratives and change those taglines about who we are. We are a strong community. St. Louis is a great place to live, but nobody knows that right now. So we want to change that narrative, and we think we can.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a few questions, but I'm gonna start because I'm just a little confused. So you're a consulting group, and it sounds like you want to work with organizations that need to build capacity to do more work or better work. Give me a snapshot of exactly what you're proposing to do.
What we're proposing to do is bring back programming that we saw that was impactful within communities.
And you're going to operate the programs?
We're going to provide that service
Okay.
to those CDCs. And if there's not a CDC, then yes, we will be the ones to implement that program.
Okay. I'm going to have to leave, and I'm going to give it back to you, but I want to clear something up that I said earlier because it just struck me as very confusing. So early on, we opened up some conversation about this $5 million that was passed. It was clear to me, or sold to me, let's say, that this $5 million was part of an open process, and it was not specific to an organization, because I don't think by charter we can do that. We can't appropriate money directly for an organization. That's why we have ENA and all of that. And I would be concerned if that's how it was written, there's probably going to be a lawsuit, because everybody, it's public funds, and we should all have an opportunity to apply for it. So I just want to be on record that I said something that I'm not clear about anymore based on the conversation that we had.
We probably need to bring them back before us.
And I need clarity.
Yeah.
Because, and I did look at the bill, and it clearly said cure violence, but cure violence could also just be a term and not an organization. So it's kind of sketchy how it's written. So I just want to put myself on record, because I don't like to be wrong.
Before you go, we have to approve the minutes.
Okay.
And it just takes a second, but we didn't have the votes to approve the minutes
Okay.
early.
So I just wanted to put that out there. So why don't we,
If we could
before
do-
we get to your questions.
We're gonna do the
by
minutes real
committee,
fast.
We're going to go back to approve of the minutes, and I'll restate my motion that I'll move to approve the minutes of October the 1st, 2019.
I'll second that.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderman Ornowitz. Alderwoman Hubbard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard, Alderman Muhammad, Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
Aye.
Chairman Vaccaro.
Aye.
6 aye votes.
Okay, so now I'm back in charge. It just works out that way. So I have to, can you hand me the committee list? We'll go down the committee.
You don't have
And
nobody
vice-
for me, Shameen and Tamika.
Well, did Larry?
Oh, they're
Larry-
on.
We got Larry, so I'm just gonna go, Larry, do you have any questions? Alderman Hodowitz, I'm sorry.
No, just say I appreciate his comment. I like your concept also because I think you're right. You do give money away once in your organization. And you really want to have some feedback if this time to review another application. I think you should come back a couple times a year. So I like the idea that you're willing to go into these organizations and maybe help them put them on the right track.
Alderwoman Hubbard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I first would like to thank you all for coming. Tony Cousins, one thing we know about you is that you will do the work, and I can attest to the work that you did at AMI Kids. I remember 4 years ago, my brother and I, we traveled to Florida and met with Judge Orlando, and we saw their model, and we pitched it hard. My brother Rodney Hubbard got $1 million put in the budget from the state to operate AMI Kids, and I sat on their board briefly, but had to step away because they work you so hard on their board. But even with saying that, and I'm not exactly sure where they are now, this is an organization that has been around over 40-plus years. I mean, they have huge donors. They have people donating airplanes and boats and all this stuff, and they still struggle to operate in St. Louis, in one of our most impoverished areas, you know, operating an alternative school program. So that just goes back to what I said before, how you can have the best model in the world, but finance, it plays a big part in that. And so I just want to commend you on your efforts, and we all know that we need a lot of things taking place. I'm probably one of the most vocal now about constantly giving money to organizations who are documenting the work. They're hopping in front of cameras on the TV, but we're not seeing the results in our community, and that's why our crime is through the roof, and I think we need to get past that. And lastly, I would just like to say, I mean, all of my colleagues from North St. Louis, I feel like it's almost like we need to go on a tour and let people get to know the Black Caucus and everybody else. There's always this disconnect in the community, thinking that we don't come from humble beginnings and we're not still living it. I mean, I'm a product of public housing. I'm a blessing in my community. I walked across bodies, going to school, going to the bus stop to be bussed out of my community as a D-said kid, and it's through the grace of God that I made it. I mean, when you're talking about the drug dealers and the dope, okay, dope was being sold till this day right outside of my front door. As me being an alder person on public safety, having a duty officer number that I can call, dope is still being sold out in front of my front door. So I heard it at the last meeting, and a guy stood up and he spoke and he asked this question: have you all ever endured this or endured that? Look, we come from nothing, okay? We're success stories in our community. We eat, sleep, breathe this stuff, and we know that we are residing in one of the most racially divided towns in this country, and so it's a hurdle. Every decision that we make as a unit, as far as the Black Caucus, whether it's minority inclusion, every decision we make, we're making it with the people in our community on our back. And you know, people sit outside and say, well, we aren't doing enough. We do things, we talk at wee hours of the night, processing and trying to make sure that we do what's in the best interest of our community, but we have to be realistic about some of the conditions of our community. We can definitely hop on that soapbox and talk about systemic racism, and all this stuff was by design, and in my community, we've had 60 years of disinvestment, and we got NGA, and you know, there's this boogeyman about displacement. Well, I'll die before people in my community get displaced. So that's where we come from, and that's where a majority of my colleagues come from. That we weren't born with silver spoons in our mouth, so we know what's going on in the community, and we definitely have to focus on accountability. You know, there's all this stuff going on in our community, but there's in excess of 1,000 jobs online with Slate right now that people in our community aren't going to get. There are hundreds of jobs in the medical field through employment connections. So as a community, we have to start taking ownership of where we are. You know, you can go through all this stuff and say what people did to you, but it's on how you handle it. And so those are the real conversations that need to take place in our community. And I'm all for organizations coming in if they're going to do the work and do it right, because for so long, you know, I'm not saying you all are like that, but we've had many organizations in our community who haven't really done the work, and they've been getting all the money dumped on them, and that does a disservice to the community. And in having an organization in the community, you can say you'll do all this stuff, but do you have the respect in the community to actually do the work? Those guys that stand in front of the liquor stores and on the corners, do they respect you enough to even open up themselves to let you serve them? So there's so much that goes on with this. As you can tell, I'm passionate about it. All my background is in criminology and criminal justice, and I just happen to land in this headache of being an auto person. But I support organizations that are genuine about serving our community, because for too long we have been a disservice to them, and I just hope, however I can support any organization who's actually going to do the work, I'll definitely do that. And I just want to thank you all for coming again.
Alderwoman Hubbard, I'm glad everything you said, the passion, everything that's why we're here. That's exactly why we're standing here presenting what we're presenting, because we're tired and we know what the need is and how to fix it. And that's all we're trying to do, is come up and be a part of the solution to the problems that you guys are having. When we were at the town hall meeting and the lady had me in tears saying, my community is crumbling before my eyes. We're products, just like you. And we made it. So that's what we're here to try to show, and be able to be that support system that's needed.
Thank you. You know, I appreciate you. Alderwoman Pam Boyd.
The only thing I have to say is, from both of these organizations, one thing, and I agree with Alderwoman Hubbard, one thing, our community, it's a trust issue.
It is.
And if I just met with somebody this morning, and I said, you can walk in my community, and they'll know instantly if you're lying or if you're upfront with them. I said, they sell our people short and feel like they don't know. They know. They know who's serious, and they know who's passionate about rebuilding. And so I applaud both of you all for coming in to try to help us to look at another tool in regards to the violence within our community. And it's clear to me that we have to focus on education, because that's the main piece that's going to get them to the next level. That's all I have.
Thank you. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. The other Hubbard.
Everybody's always said what I want to say by the time they get to me, but, so I just want to again thank both of the organizations for coming out. And I believe in the models and the foundations from what you all presented. And Tony, I can, again, like my sister said, I can attest to your work. And since I read your bio, so, I mean, it's probably a good thing that you all, even if you don't come in at the level you want to, maybe offer your services, your accountability, and your strategical and your facilitating services to some of these organizations that don't get the money but are doing the work, are absolutely doing the work every day. So I would just want to support you any way I could, you know that, but just don't, even if it doesn't go out like this, which I believe in starting it in the schools. That's why I believe in the program where he's starting young. I think age is a factor that we leave out a lot of times, when they have these age gaps. I think the younger, they need to drill down on what age that it switches, because when you're in the elementary schools, they not running around, a majority of them not running around talking about killing each other, but once you get to a certain age, it's like something switches in them babies, and you don't know, so your kind of work, data-driven work, would drill down to that, and then you can help facilitate and help people that are on the ground and not just up here for the show. So thank you all for taking the time out. Thank you all for coming. Like I said, maybe you guys can be a part of the summit, and we can all come together, like Alderman Boyd said, and use these tools collectively to change the situation of crime and violence in our cities. Thank you.
So I guess I get to wrap it up. But first off, I'd probably be bad if I said, but you guys really did a good job. I wanted to say something different, but then somebody would say something. I just thought it was kind of nice how you tag team. And I appreciate you. I appreciate, I've been to the school where you worked. I've been out there, and I learned a lot. And I'm still learning a lot. And I appreciate you guys coming out. And, and I think I better stop there because I'll get myself in trouble. So anyway.
One of the things, if I can add, one is 4 proposals, and they all are standalone, but they all can work hand in hand. But one of the proposals that looks like it's really about to start again is the one that's going into the elementary school.
Right.
So we'll actually be working in the elementary school and the middle schools.
Right.
Where we'll go back, like you're saying, be more proactive and trying to grab a hold of those youth that everyone don't want to be bothered with.
So thank you, and hang out for a bit.
Okay.
And then I would ask, if anybody doesn't have any other questions, I would ask somebody move to adjourn this. We could stay all day.
I move to adjourn.
And I'll second that, yes. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.